Hey, welcome. We are at part 2 of our series of 3D storyboards. I'm from the lovely city of Dallas at MediaTech Institute. I am here working with you guys on how to make 3D storyboards and how to use software to do that. With the software we're using is FrameForge 3D. This is part 2 dose of our series, and in this particular part we are going to put 3D people, props, furniture, stuff that you need to fill up your digital set. We built digital sets on the last part 1. Go check it out if you missed it. Part 2, we're filling up those sets and getting ready to start taking virtual pictures in our 3D storyboard environment. So, as we discussed before, sometimes people want to actually draw storyboards because they're good artists and they'll use something like this and they'll draw their storyboards, and that's great for those people. But there's this sort of catch-22 yin-yang kind of situation going on here. What if you can't draw, but you still got to make these storyboards? Well, that's where 3D software comes in, because you can make these virtual environments and move cameras around within them, virtual cameras, and take snapshots and make your own digital storyboards, as we talked about in part 1. So part 2, let's get going on looking at the video for this one and how we can continue on our journey of making our 3D sets. So let's go with that. And again, I'm going to talk through this video I made before using FrameForge 3D. I've opened up FrameForge here, and this was where we ended up before. We have got a set that we built, which was a classroom set. But the reality is we don't have anything else ready to go. There's nothing in that classroom set. Now, over on the right there are some controls, and those controls, let me move me out of the way. Those controls right there will control whether or not how you move around inside this top-down view. And up here, the top-down view up here is right here, and we're looking at that with these controls right here. So that's how you can zoom in, zoom out, magnify, scroll around. We do have a virtual camera that's right there, and that virtual camera is a color that's red there. And with that virtual camera, we can see what's on our set. Right now we're just looking at a blank wall, so that doesn't help us. So let's put it in the corner of the classroom set, and then we can zoom around. Down at the very bottom there, we've got controls that we can look at that are controls for like zooming, panning, craning up, dollying around, all kinds of fancy controls there for this kind of stuff. And as we go through the camera controls, you can see as I pan to the left, that camera up there is panning to the left, and I can tilt up and down. I'm also zooming out, which is changing the focal length. And this program actually tells you the proper focal length, what a lens would look like if you built the set to the exact scales of the feet or meters of your real set. So right now I've got a camera is at 4 feet 11 inches off the ground. I can crane that up a little bit. I'm going to put this camera up kind of high, like 10 feet up in the corner of the room looking down, like a wide shot to get into the scene. And it also gives me a chance right now to look at the whole classroom. And right here, obviously there's no ceiling on it, but a lot of sets don't have ceilings, and that's fine. I'm going to tilt this down and pan around to try and find what I think might be my opening shot. Now, I might want to widen it out a little bit more, and I can change the focal length. I always tell my students not to go beyond a 14 millimeter unless you've got specialty lenses, like an 8 millimeter or something, but then those start to look real fisheye, don't look so good in real life. So I try to get them to constrain it to the lenses that we might have on campus here, or they might own, like a 14 millimeter up to maybe a 300 millimeter or something like that. So what we're doing now is we are looking at adding some people, props, furniture, all kinds of things like that to this. So the way we'll make this work is we are going to go in there and start adding some desks, because I've got a teacher desk that looks a little bit like that one, and a student desk that looks like the one on the right. So I'm going to drop that teacher desk in. I'm going to drop in some student desks. And this classroom is going to look a little barren. And look, if you don't put it in the right place, it can end up on top of something. But you move it around, get them lined up. And I'm just going to put one row of desks in here for now. We have desks all around the outside as well, on the walls with computers everywhere. I'm not going to bother filling it out that far, but I could put computers on the desks and all kinds of stuff, pens and paper. Now look, I'm trying to line these desks up, but I'm doing it from my perspective, from the camera's perspective. If a real way to check it would be go to overhead view. And when you click on the overhead view, now you can look down and see, oh, these aren't quite lined up, if you wish to line them up. And there are little bitty controls right there that hover around when you touch on an object. And those controls allow you to move the object, spin them around. But there's a lot more controls over on the side as well. When you look at FrameForge in a larger perspective and you go back to the camera view, there's more controls there into the camera view. And you can see that's the spinning control. This is the elevate control. There are different ones that do different things. I don't know if that one does anything. There's different controls. This one will turn the desk up on its corner. This one makes it bigger or smaller, like if you want to just make it a huge desk for whatever reason, not that you would, but you can do all that. But those actual controls are to the left over here. If you look over there to the left, you can see that the actual controls for the object. So any object you have clicked on inside FrameForge 3D here, you can move them around using these buttons here on the left to do whatever you need to do, however you need to manipulate them. And you can also grab them and try to move them too. Sometimes the problem is, though, when you're looking at it from one perspective, like the camera's perspective, you can't see that if they're lined up very well. So you go to that overhead perspective and it helps do that. I think I'm going to put some chairs in here. And over here at the top right is where you can pick items. There are a lot of items that already exist in here. You can also buy packs of items, and you can start to type in the word and see if you can find chairs. And there, of course, are some chairs. I'm going to pick one that looks like my teacher's chair, which is probably going to be that one. I can pick something that looks like a student chair. I'm not sure which one I'll pick. You just want to get close. This program is not really about you being super, super accurate on the props. You want to get as close as you can. But the reality is this program, as I tell my students, is all about picking the proper shots, the proper angles, and don't get too hung up on the details of the props. Because what you really want to know is, as a director, can you pick the proper shots and angles and focal lengths? So let's throw some chairs in there. Let's try to get them behind each desk. Make some just generic student chairs, one for each desk. And I think I'll put this last one out on the side a little bit, like there'll be a student up there that's really listening intensely to the teacher, and they've moved their chair. There's the teacher one, spinning around a little bit. But I'm not going to put the teacher in it. No, a good teacher needs to be up and around. Unlike me making this video where I'm sitting in one chair, a lot of times when I've got students, you want to walk around and help them out and look at their screens and just generally be moving as much as you can, keep people's attention. So as we move forward with this, let's put some students in there. I can choose how I want the students seated into the chair. And so that's what's happening here. We're trying to seat these students into the chairs. And hopefully they'll be really nice students and not unruly. I like how just standing there, defying gravity. So we're going to put a female in this chair here, listening to the teacher, and seated in chair is good. Now, some of these objects and things that you can give them can make them automatically hold them in their hands. We'll get to that in a second. Let's put the teacher in. Just pick somebody in there. And you can put the teacher where they're going to be teaching in this particular shot, spin them around however you want to spin them. One of the things, again, these objects on the left are the controls, the more precise controls, but you can also grab the controls next to the person that are hovering there. And newer versions of FrameForge may have newer items like this. This is I think we've got versions 3 and 4 here at the school right now. So I can zoom in now. Those are my camera controls at the bottom, and I'm going back to the overhead view now to see if everybody looks like everything's set up to where it should be. It looks pretty good. I'm going to click on the object on the person in this case, and I'm going to go try and manipulate the person. I can grab each joint on this person since it's a 3D person. I can grab the wrist joints, the elbow joints, the arm joints, anything, and I can get in there and move things around if you need them to be in certain poses for each shot. So it's really like you're dealing with some virtual actors here, and you can get as precise as you want. Now this one's wearing a suit. I may change that to do something else. Oh, let's look at the pants. Oh, look, no pants, R-rated. What do you think? Should we do it? Should we click it? Oh no, nudity disallowed. Yep, we have the academic versions at the school. They don't allow for nudity. I just like trying to think, what in the world would these digital nudes look like anyway? It's kind of weird. So I'm putting on some slouchy jeans there. I might put on, I'll put on a biker jacket. That's interesting. Okay, so this is the cool teacher. He comes to school and is cool if it's the 1950s, I guess. You can change his body shape, his body from buff to fat. Fat would be me, so let's fatten him up. Oh, let's make him buff, the buff teacher. All right. And you can change their age. You can age them up, and they get a lot more wrinkles and stuff in their face. You can see the face changing there. Kind of funny. Change it probably leave it at 30. The expression editor is interesting. You can change it around to different emotions. And if you want to get partial emotions, you can go in and really just mess with these sliders and get, although when you get too many of them up, it just gets to what I call horse face. I mean, just weird looking face in a strange, place. But I'm going to go with happy there. And I can change all kinds of things about this. So, get in there and experiment with it and change your actors accordingly. Other things you can do here is you can go in and add props. But there are these, if you don't have all the props you want, there are other things you can do too to try to get props from FrameForge themselves. Some of them are expansion packs that you can buy. Look at this. This inside, not that I would need a sword in this scene, but I'm going to grab one because it's an object, and I'm going to stick it near the teacher's hand. And now I get a choice. Do I want to holding the sword with one hand, right hand, left hand, or I guess just right hand or both hands? And, that's one thing you can do with these objects. I kind of call them sticky objects that can stick to a character, as opposed to you having to float it in space exactly at the right place. But so you can see how that works. I'm going to get rid of that sword now. We don't need it for this scene. And I guess one last option is this little button with the 3 dots, and that will lead you to the FrameForge website if I were online right in this video, but I'm not online. But that would lead you to the FrameForge website, and you could sign up and become a member of the boards, and lots of people are creating objects that you can download, and as long as you know which object folder to put them in, reboot the program, and then the new objects will be there. I'm going to save this because you should save often. So we have built an indoor set, as you can see, but we need an outdoor set. I want a new set, so I'm clicking on New Set Location, and this is going to be an exterior because it's outdoors, and this is going to be the building of the school itself. So I will pretend that this is the building of MediaTech, where we're going to get an establishing shot of the school before we get into the interior. So I chose exteriors. I'm going to choose a city intersection exterior. There's parks and grass and suburban areas, all kinds of things. So this one looks like this. Now I'm going to go back to the overhead view and see what I can magnify it out so we can see that this kind of ends around. It doesn't go too far. You can build multiple sets on top of each other or multiple backgrounds. But again, remember the idea here is to show your shots. It's not to get too crazy about being exact on, that's not how the street looks, or that's not how the grass is colored. It's a big deal for this part of the storyboard process. So I'm going in there and I'm looking for a building now, and I should probably move my thing over here. And then I'm going to look for a building. I'll just pick that one, although that kind of looks like a McDonald's from the 1980s. But I'll stick that there, and I can resize it. I can move it around. I'm going to go look at my camera view to see what I'm looking at here. And then I guess I should probably move this over so we can see the other objects we're going to look at. I'm going to pick some cars, put them in there. I'm going to put this yellow car like it's driving on the road back there. Maybe this Winnebago. And I'll put Jesse and Heisenberg in there doing a little meth action. And then we are going to get our camera set up to where our camera should be. We can choose the height or how low we want the camera. I'm saving because I like to save often, but I'm going to go back to classroom set now. So I've built 2 different sets, and those 2 sets are ready to be used and ready to get in there and actually start making some adjustments and things. So I'm closing it down for this. That's the end of this part of the building 3D sets part 2. What we'll do is we'll come back for our part 3, and you'll want to look at the 3D sets once we've built them now. We've got people in them. We need to take a camera around there and start taking our shots and getting shots for that. So let's move into the part 3 and check out part 1 first. And then now we're on part 2, and we're moving into part 3, how to actually make the final stages of the 3D storyboard.